Hello everybody! As you can probably tell, our time in Hong Kong has come to an end, unfortunately. We spent a very brief 3 whole days of exploring around Hong Kong, so by no means we're not experts on this topic, but we wanted to share our honest impressions and experience with you from our time that we spent there, because I have to say it was quite an interesting experience, as a lot of you will have seen, and we've received quite a lot of attention from it. We arrived into Hong Kong, and from the second we arrived, everything sort of was a little bit chaotic, and that has a lot to do with just how poorly we prepared for our trip. And we're going to be hands in the air here. We did not prepare whatsoever, but for us, that's just how we like to do things. If you've been watching our channel now for a while, we've been traveling now 4 years, over 4 years, nearly 4.5 years now, full time around the world, and we never prepare, because we just like to basically learn as we go, which is the whole point of a lot of what the videos that we make are about.
Now, if you're wondering why we are not preparing, that is really down to 2 different reasons. The first one being we are in a lot of different places in a very quick time. A lot of times we're changing locations every 3 or 4 days or something like that. So there isn't really that much time to actually prepare. And the second one being expectations, because if you prepare and research a lot about where you are going, you're going to have a lot of expectations or things that you're going to assume that are going to happen, and you're not going to enter that country or that place with an absolutely clear eye, a clear sight on what is happening around you. So we like to get an actual first impressions of what a place is like and show that on camera, and also other tourists that are going to these places very quickly learn, if they do research by watching our videos, for example, what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, we're not really the types of people that are going to make like a tutorial video where we very clearly have researched everything. Our whole channel is basically just to be as raw and as authentic and as honest as we can. So we received a lot of comments on our videos from Hong Kong. A lot of attention obviously went to them because of our, I suppose, entering or arrival. A lot of the comments were very negative towards us, but that's totally fine. Like I said, we've been doing this now for quite a while, so it just kind of rolls off our back. But we did want to address and talk about our honest opinion of our Hong Kong trip. And I guess I'm going to start off with talking about just our first impressions. Now, when we arrived, like I said, things very rapidly felt different to mainland China, and that has a lot to do with a lot of different things. You have the one country, 2 system set up in Hong Kong, and there's a lot of Hong Kongers, based off of our comments, who are very visibly and clearly not for China, which is understandable in some ways. And obviously you can feel that Hong Kong does genuinely feel, I'm just being dead honest here, it feels like an entirely different place to China. You have cash that is widely accepted in Hong Kong. A huge proportion of the people in Hong Kong speak perfectly in English, which is amazing for foreign visitors like us. When we arrive, we can communicate with a lot of different people, which is fantastic for us. In the mainland of China, that's not the case. You struggle very much to find people that speak English, which is, in my opinion, totally understandable for Chinese people. China has never had an invasion or a takeover or an occupation from an English-speaking country, so that's 100% understandable. But in terms of the language, it was very smooth and easy for us to arrive and then be able to just communicate with different people, like getting tickets on the MTR, for example.
And Hong Kong is not only different to China, but also more specifically different to the other autonomous regions that we have visited within China, with Hong Kong kind of feeling a lot more separated. You do have a border where you get stamped out of China and stamped more or less. You get like a little arrival kind of ticket into Hong Kong. You get a new visa, and if you were to re-enter mainland China, you also get a new China visa. So it's a lot more separated in that way. And also, if you have seen our arrival into Hong Kong video in the other autonomous regions, of course you can use a foreigner's account for Alipay and WeChat, whereas in Hong Kong that that account is immediately disabled. 1 second. Oh my god. Check out this little dude here on the side. Jurassic Park in the middle of a giant city. But yeah, that our account got immediately disabled. And another thing as well, which we explained I think in the comments a little bit here and there, we actually use eSIMs. We usually use the regional Asia eSIMs, which work perfectly fine everywhere in Asia, everywhere in mainland China, no problem. Everywhere in Southeast Asia, regardless of where you go in Asia, it works. But if you enter Hong Kong, you actually get a text message saying your eSIM has been disabled. You need to real name register yourself online, which is of course very inconvenient if your internet access has just been taken away, basically. And then you have to actually go online and upload your documents, upload your passport, and so on. So it's, I don't know, it feels very, very sort of, I don't know, not to use an odd word, but like a little isolated from the rest of Asia, if you ask me.
It's like a unique sort of metropolis, and that is one of the reasons why I'm going to just flat out say this right now. Hong Kong is very unique, and it is absolutely fantastic, if I'm being honest. We really enjoyed our time there. We got a lot of comments from people in our comment section trying to say that Hong Kong is dangerous, which I find to be pretty crazy, because I'm gonna be very clear here. I've never seen such a high level of surveillance anywhere in the world, and that is coming after traveling around mainland China. So when we arrived from the train station, we took the train from Chongqing in mainland China down to Hong Kong. When we got off the train, I'm not joking, the train station is covered. The roof is covered in cameras pointing in every direction, and you'll only really understand what I'm talking about if you were there yourself. Unfortunately, I didn't take a video of it because it's the immigration area, but I'm talking like easily a couple hundred cameras in each room when you arrive. So that right there for us actually is a little bit off-putting, because people in the West, we are surveilled 100% by our government. If you own a smartphone, you're giving into that side of things anyways, and if you're using digital payment systems, you're giving into that anyways. But it is a little bit jarring when you arrive somewhere and you see hundreds of cameras. But because of that, Hong Kong felt incredibly safe. And I also want to touch upon comments that we received as well about Hong Kongers being rude or unwelcoming. Apparently they have a reputation in Hong Kong for being rude, and I'm going to be very, very clear. I think Naomi agrees with me here on this point. We had an incredibly warm welcome into Hong Kong. We actually spoke to 20-30 different people, obviously not while we were filming. We were like walking around all 3 days. We spent like our entire days outside and just enjoying our time, and we did not have a negative experience with anybody. So I can't really speak to that whole thing about them being rude, because that is not the case from what we have experienced.
I think that perception, well, again, as Luke just said, we didn't experience it, but I think that perception might be a little bit because Hong Kongers are very used to international tourists, expats and so on. It's one of the probably most diverse places I've ever seen. Definitely most diverse place in Asia, like number one, more than any other place after being in Asia for 3 years or whatever, definitely the most diverse place. So I think, and that is the exact same as it is in the West. We are also coming from quite diverse places. So if you see a foreigner or if you see a tourist, you don't really think that they're a tourist. So like, for example, if I see a Chinese person or a Hong Konger or an Indian person where I'm from in Germany, walking up to them and being like, welcome to Germany, they would be like, I've been living here for 6 generations, what are you talking about? Like, we are just a lot more used to seeing foreigners, and that's why we don't necessarily walk up to people and starting a conversation, because like 99% of the time they speak better German than I do. So like, it's really not the case that they're foreigners, and it would be considered extremely rude if I was to be like, hey, you're a foreigner, you look different to me, and that's why I'm approaching you right now. That's just not the way things are in the West, and I kind of felt it was similar that way in Hong Kong. Maybe that's why people think Hong Kongers are rude or whatever, but it's just a different perception of what locals are, what expats are, what foreigners are. It's just not the same. It's not obvious, like, oh, you look different, you must be just off of the boat or whatever, you know?
And I want to talk about this as well, because something that pushes a little bit of people away from visiting Hong Kong is the fact that it's not a budget travel destination, and that is 100% true. So, as a lot of you might have seen, our accommodation was woefully small, and we paid very little money for it, so that's understandable. You can pay a little bit more money, like 50% more, or maybe double what we paid, to get yourself a reasonably nice hotel room, and then you can obviously pay 2 or 3 times more to get a much larger hotel. If that's something that you're looking for, we don't travel for comfort, we travel for experience. We got a lot of negative comments down below, like saying, oh, you get what you pay for, stop complaining. We weren't complaining, we were just literally just reacting to the room. We actually, being totally honest, enjoyed our stay very much, and the person who ran the accommodation was a very friendly person, and we actually genuinely had a fantastic time. So in terms of that, you definitely don't have to blow wads of cash in Hong Kong to enjoy your time. It will improve your quality of life, obviously. That's the case for everywhere in the world, but we don't travel for that. So that whole thing of like, oh, you get what you pay for or whatever, we understand where you're coming from, but that's not why we do this.
You also do have to keep in mind, if you watched us maybe for a little bit longer, you would understand it. But if this was your first touch point with us as a couple or with us as a channel, we don't claim to be rich. We don't claim to make mega money on YouTube. It's actually quite the opposite. We probably put way more money into this still to this day as we made on YouTube, and we are not trying to show you unrealistic expectations of what full-time travel looks like. We're not gonna go to a place and be like, wow, look at this, everything is perfect, here's my butler, here's my, you know, whatever roses that were waiting for me in the hotel room. That's just not us. We're never gonna pay a lot of money for a hotel room unless it is really absolutely necessary, in terms of like, there's nothing else available. But if we find a little hostel or a little hotel that has a private room that can give us a bed and a bathroom, that's all we're looking for, really. And I don't think that will ever change.
Yeah. Another thing to touch upon, this is probably just going to be a long rambling sort of a video, and that's what this is intended to be, I guess. Food. So the food in Hong Kong, in terms of like the quality, the taste, and how it is, yes, it's more expensive than it is, for example, in China. It's more expensive than it is here where we are at the moment. We're in Thailand. So Thailand is known for being very affordable. And yes, that's the case. Hong Kong, that's not the case. It's a little bit more expensive for the food, but I'm gonna say this flat out honestly, Hong Kong in terms of food is, for me, the best city in Asia, hands down. So if you like good quality, if you like beef, Hong Kong is very, very big on meat consumption. So if you are a meat lover like myself and Naomi are, you will love Hong Kong. If you just like food variety in general, you can get food from all over the world in Hong Kong. There's a reason why very big chef TV shows and food shows are filmed in Hong Kong. In terms of food, honestly, it was the best place that I've experienced probably since we've started traveling in terms of options. We had things from beef curries to beef and broccoli, beef noodles. Obviously you can go for options that are not beef as well, but
which we didn't do.
I'm a beef lover though. And then in terms of the bakeries, oh my goodness, the bakeries. If you do want to spend like less money, you can do that. So you don't have to blow your whole budget on having larger meals. You can go for cheap, obviously much more local places, more local bakeries and stuff like that. That's no issue at all. You're still going to get incredibly high quality pastries that will blow your world away. And it's best to do that because this is why we like Hong Kong as well. Cash is accepted everywhere for the most part. So going to a local Hong Kong bakery, paying with cash, you're directly supporting a family that has been running their business for a long time, and that money is just going straight into their hands, and that is a fantastic feeling. So in terms of food, for me, Hong Kong is up there. I think it's actually very close, or it is number one in my book.
Yeah, I would say similar things. Of course, I will forever stay I will forever stay true to Thailand. My personal number one is Thailand and Bangkok, but Hong Kong is definitely in the top 3 in terms of city and in terms of availability and the food itself, the quality and so on. It's very, very good. And also touching upon the cost of food within Hong Kong, yes, it's a little bit more than it is in China, for example, or in Thailand, or wherever else that you want to look at, but it's not like crazy. So it's still not like, if for example in Germany at the moment, if you want to go and have like a nice meal for 2 people, even if it's just like in a random diner for lunch, you're going to be looking at spending at least, I don't know, 70 bucks. If we're speaking about Ireland, it's probably more than 100 bucks, where Luke is from. And so I still think it's still like, it's not out of proportion. If you want to compare the prices of food within Hong Kong to another Asian country, I would say it's probably on par with South Korea, where we have traveled not that long ago. It's pretty comparable price-wise, budget-wise.
Comparing-wise, what I would compare it to is Shanghai.
Or Shanghai,
so you have Hong Kong, massive metropolitan city, and then I think the closest comparison that I would draw to would be Shanghai. Yeah. So we spent some time in Shanghai, about a week or so, a year ago I think it was, and Shanghai in terms of China is probably the most expensive place that you can go. Everything is more expensive in Shanghai, and a lot of times that's because you do get a higher quality of service and the places are more modern and fancy and etc, etc. I'm gonna say this very clearly, and I'm sorry we have probably I think we have a lot of subscribers from Shanghai. Hong Kong is better than Shanghai. And I'm just saying that out of the fact that I just thought it had more character. I thought it feels more authentic. And I'm not saying Shanghai is in any way a bad place. I actually really genuinely love Shanghai. But if you're looking for a city that is nostalgic, a place that has sort of history and emotion built into it, Shanghai has a lot of history, obviously. I'm not saying it doesn't, but you can feel the grittiness in Hong Kong, and that for us is more appealing than the ultra clean, modern, cyber AI stuff. Hong Kong just feels more like it's alive, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and also in terms of Hong Kong money spending as well, you do have to think about the demand that you get per square meter in Hong Kong. Yes, of course, Shanghai has probably, I don't know, Shanghai is probably more people living within it than Hong Kong does.
I'm not sure.
I'm actually not sure. But Shanghai is spread out, for example, a lot more. So the demand for food, for a place of rest, for hotels, for whatever it might be, per square meter, per square kilometer is lower than it is in Hong Kong. And if you pair that with free market capitalism, of course, prices, like demand dictates the price, and that's also why it's a lot higher. Of course, how many millions of people visit just Hong Kong every single year, every single month, and if there's, I don't know, 400 people that are looking at the one room that we booked because that was a low price accommodation, that price for that one room is going to increase over time, because obviously the people realize, okay, the tourists are going to pay it, so why not increase the price? And I do understand that from a free market capitalism type of viewpoint, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And something I want to touch on as well, something that and I think a lot of people don't understand about Hong Kong, and we're very new to Hong Kong, so we're only just figuring this out now that we left, unfortunately. The amount of nature that is on offer to you in Hong Kong is crazy. So for the amount of space that Hong Kong has, yes, it's very heavily, densely populated, and it's built up. It's a vertical city. A lot of cities like where we are now, or in Bangkok, it's very spread out. It is built up, it's also very spread out. Hong Kong just seems to be like vertical for the most part. And I think the reasoning behind that has a lot to do with that they are trying to maintain a lot of the beautiful beaches and hiking trails and greenery that is surrounding Hong Kong. There's hundreds of different hidden away hiking trails. There's mountains and there's beautiful beaches like Shek O, Repulse Bay. There's tons of other beaches, tons of islands as well that you can go out and explore. You have like Lama Island, Lantau Island, and I can't even name all of the rest of them, to be honest. But there's so much more to Hong Kong than the concrete jungle that it is often portrayed to be. So for that reason alone, Hong Kong genuinely, and I mean this wholeheartedly, I'm not just saying this because you guys are watching us, it's a very surprising place. I did not expect it to be like that whatsoever, and that's obviously down to our poor amount of research. If we had have researched more, I would have probably spent the 3 days that we were there sitting on a beach or exploring the hiking trails to a greater extent. But Hong Kong, to me, would I visit again? Absolutely, in a heartbeat. If I was to get the chance, because we get 90 days on arrival, honestly, I would love to go back to Hong Kong and spend 1 month, possibly even 2 months, just based there and exploring everything that it has to offer. Because I'm telling you guys, in my opinion, it's an incredible place, and I'm gonna just flat out say I think not enough people are talking about it. I think a lot of people commented down below as well, saying that Hong Kong had its heyday, or that it was the best in the 90s or whatever. We didn't go there at that time, so we don't have anything to compare it to. But honestly, if you get the chance, if you're watching this and you haven't been there, go there. Just reach into your pocket and save up some money or something and try and get a trip there, because if you have traveled Asia and you know what Asia is like and you want something different, you want something very unique, check out Hong Kong. So for me, I would absolutely go back there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, the same is applicable to me as well. I would also go back in a heartbeat. I would even go to the point where I would be like, you know, a lot of flights are connecting through Hong Kong, for example. I would be like, okay, let's do the connecting flight, but stay for a few days and then move on from there, basically. I think staying 2 months, as Luke said, would be cool, would definitely be interesting. But of course, Hong Kong is not like the biggest place. So I think after like maybe 3 or 4 weeks, you might run out of things to explore if you are exploring every single day. Luke is saying no.
There's so much.
Yeah, there is so much. There's actually a lot more than what meets the eye when you look at Hong Kong. But I would say like a month maybe would be the max. But if we are, for example, let's say we were to go back to whatever, South Korea or China or wherever, and there is the option of doing a transit type of situation, I would do it, and I would actually do it several times, and just kind of try and get new perspectives out of Hong Kong itself, because it's a really cool place to be. It's very diverse. The architecture is interesting, and both of us are so sweaty because it's rainy season right here in Bangkok where we are, and it was just raining. The humidity is on another level. I don't know if we're probably starting to sweat through our clothes.
Look at this.
Oh my god.
But the whole point of this video was just basically to wrap up our time in Hong Kong and say thank you very much for all the support. We're obviously not there anymore, so we do appreciate it. But we do hope you'll stick around and join us on our adventures around the rest of the world. So we're going to sign off. Bye bye.
Bye.